My name's Jason. I'm 46, a security systems engineer out of Baltimore. The kind of work where you build things no one notices until they fail. Then it's your fault. Maybe that's what drew me to Linda. I thought I could do for her family what I did for clients. Reinforce what was weak. Protect what mattered. Make it all work without anyone seeing the wires. I moved into Linda's house in early spring, just after the snow melted and everything smelled like fresh mud and second chances. She had 2 kids from her first marriage, Tyler and Brianna, both already marinating in teenage contempt. 16 and 15. Old enough to roll their eyes before you finished a sentence. My kids, Caden and Molly, were 7 and 9. Still young enough to believe that a family was something you built, not something that was already broken. The first months were soft, fragile. Cookouts, family movie nights, photo albums filled with stiff smiles and forced arms around shoulders. We looked like a family, the kind people imagine when they say blended. I convinced myself it could work, that I could love Linda and, eventually, her children would learn to tolerate me. Maybe even more. But tolerance doesn't grow where resentment already lives. Started subtle. Tyler not looking up when I entered a room. Brianna refusing to eat meals I cooked. Little frictions passed off as teenage moods. Linda excused it all. They've been through a lot. You're trying too hard. You need to give them space. I gave them space. I gave them time. I gave them everything. I paid the bills, covered groceries, paid for braces and school trips and clothes and phones. I let them stay on my insurance after their father ghosted out of state. I helped Tyler study for his driver's permit. I bought Brianna her first ring light because she wanted to build her brand. In return, silence, contempt. They stopped calling me Jason and started calling me him when they talked to Linda. He said I can't go. He's being extra. Is he really that mad about the Wi-Fi? I became a presence to navigate around, not a person to respect. A background function, like plumbing. The tension grew like mold in the corners. Quiet. Breading. At dinner, Tyler would slide his plate away if I made it. Brianna would FaceTime friends at full volume while I tried to ask about school. Once, I brought home pizza after a 14-hour day, and Tyler muttered, "We're not dogs, dude. You can't just throw food at us." Linda laughed. Actually laughed. "He's just joking. Don't take it so seriously." She always said that. Don't take it so seriously. But everything I gave them came from something I took away from myself. Extra shifts meant missed parent nights. Paying for Brianna's summer program meant skipping a trip I'd promised Caden. I didn't complain. I thought sacrifice would buy peace. I was wrong. Then came the comment. The one that detonated the lie I'd been living in. It was late past midnight. I was walking down the hall, heading to bed after patching the hot water line under the kitchen sink. I passed Tyler's door half open. He was on speakerphone, laughing. "Nah, he's not my dad. He just sleeps with mom. Crashes here sometimes." There it was. Unfiltered. Casual. True in his eyes. I froze. Not because of what he said, but because of how normal it sounded in his mouth. As if it was a joke he'd told before. As if that was how they talked about me when I wasn't around. I didn't yell. I didn't walk in and confront him. I just stood there, absorbing the reality I'd refused to see for years. They didn't see me as a father. Not even as a man. Just as a transaction. I walked back to the bedroom, the one I paid for. Sat down on the edge of the bed. Linda was already asleep, face turned to the window, breathing softly like nothing was wrong. In the morning, I was up before anyone else. Changed the locks. Took back the spare keys. Canceled Tyler's car insurance. Disconnected the family gas card. Pulled Brianna off my streaming accounts. That afternoon, I cleared the guest room and moved my things in. Dinner, no one asked why. That silence said more than words ever could. I wish I could say Linda asked. That she noticed the missing keys, the closed door, the quiet fury in my eyes. But she didn't. She just kept the peace. She always kept the peace, even if it meant letting her kids spit in my face. Later that week, I overheard Brianna on FaceTime during dinner. I'd made roasted chicken, potatoes, and corn. Caden's favorite. Brianna picked at the skin, looked disgusted, and when her friend asked what they were eating, she smirked. "Oh, the guy who sleeps with mom made food again. That's what we call him." Her friend laughed. Tyler laughed from across the table. I didn't. I excused myself, went to my office, and opened a folder on my laptop. Called it Exit Strategy. At first it was just a name, but it started growing. I began collecting everything. Screenshots of texts, photos of broken furniture, copies of receipts, audio clips of fights. The spreadsheet started with a few items: phone bills, insurance, rent. Then it grew. Dance lessons, summer camp, braces, college tours. All of it paid by me. All of it ignored. When I tried to set boundaries, Linda accused me of being too harsh. "They're kids," she'd say. "You've never really accepted them. But how do you accept someone who spits in your food, then asks for seconds?" I watched my own children shift under the weight of this house. Caden stopped doing chores. Said Tyler didn't have to. Molly started idolizing Brianna. Wanted to be a YouTuber, called college old school. They were drifting. My values, respect, effort, decency were rotting under this roof. And still Linda looked away. That's what hurt the most. Not the kids' disrespect. They were just extensions of their environment. But Linda, she was supposed to be my partner. The one who saw me, who stood beside me. Instead, she was a ghost with a pulse. Quiet, absent, complicit. When Tyler came home reeking of weed and said, "It's just stress," she handed him Gatorade and let it slide. When Brianna failed 2 classes and blamed toxic teachers, Linda said, "We'll look into transferring." She wasn't a mother. She was a hostage negotiator. And I was collateral damage. I remember sitting in the garage one night, engine off, silence all around me. Just me and the dim hum of regret. I looked at my hands, calloused from years of work, of fixing, of holding this family together. And I thought, what am I doing here? What am I getting in return? Nothing. Less than nothing. Just a reputation as the guy who sleeps with mom. So I started pulling back. Quietly, strategically, like rewiring a failing system. I shut down the flow of money, of time, of effort. Started redirecting my energy where it mattered: my kids, my work, myself. I wasn't angry. I was awake. Linda didn't notice the change at first. That's how far gone she was. Took another 2 weeks before she asked why I wasn't paying for Tyler's data plan. I told her, flatly, that I was done funding disrespect. She looked hurt. Not because I was wrong, but because I stopped playing along. That's when I knew the house had already fallen apart. I had just stopped pretending the frame was stable. And somewhere deep in me, a door began to close. Quiet. Final. The house didn't shatter in one moment. It buckled, bent, warped under pressure. Like an old beam sagging quietly above your head until one day it gives. That day came in the form of dinner. Not a holiday. Not a birthday. Just a Thursday. I had come home late. Clients were dragging their feet on a rollout, and I'd spent most of the day in a data center with no heat and flickering lights. The kind of day that makes your bones hum with fatigue. All I wanted was a quiet meal with my family. My real family. I made it myself: roasted salmon, sautéed spinach, mashed sweet potatoes. The kind of meal that smells like effort. I was trying. Always trying. Even when no one asked. Caden helped set the table. Molly made lemonade from scratch. I let myself believe, for a moment, that maybe we'd turned a corner. Brianna came in halfway through the meal, phone glued to her hand, talking over us. She didn't sit, just hovered near the counter, FaceTiming a friend, laughing. Linda didn't say a word. I asked her gently to join us. Brianna rolled her eyes and sat down, plate untouched. "Who made this?" her friend asked through the phone. Brianna grinned, chewing gum. "Oh, the guy who sleeps with mom. That's what we call him." The friend laughed. A wheezing, ugly sound. Tyler snorted. Linda froze, fork halfway to her mouth. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I got up, walked to the office, closed the door, and sat down at my desk. The lights were still off. I didn't need to see. I opened the exit strategy folder, started organizing files. The last stage had begun. There was no yelling, no threats, just a quiet unraveling. I began documenting everything, not for vengeance, for clarity. I took screenshots of text messages where Tyler bragged about skipping rent, letting his girlfriend stay over for weeks without asking. Captured video of Brianna insulting Molly behind her back, telling her she was too boring for YouTube. I recorded audio, careful, legal, of Linda dismissing me when I brought it up. "You're always so sensitive, Jason." I wasn't sensitive. I was done. I compiled receipts. Over $70,000 spent in 4 years. Groceries, gas, insurance, college applications, concert tickets, emergency dental surgery, all under my name. Every bill paid without a word. And every word I did speak, ignored. I checked the locks I'd changed, reprogrammed the alarm code, pulled back access to the garage. The house was mine. Let's be clear about that. Mortgage in my name, utilities on my account, Wi-Fi I installed with my own hands. This wasn't our house. This was my roof, rented, held together, and protected by me. Tyler had just turned 18. Brianna was 19. That meant they were no longer minors, no longer protected by the illusion of childhood. They wanted adult respect. They could have it, along with adult consequences. I started tracking their schedules, not to control, to plan. Tyler rarely worked more than 10 hours a week at a fast food place. He spent more time gaming than earning. Brianna hadn't held a steady job in 8 months, but her Instagram stories were full of brunches and shopping trips. Meanwhile, Caden was asking why he had to do chores when Tyler didn't. Molly had started parroting Brianna's nonsense about skipping college to chase content creation. My kids were watching the worst get rewarded. That's what finally made me act. Not anger, not pride, protection. I didn't raise freeloaders. I wouldn't watch my own children rot in a house where disrespect was currency. So I set the clock ticking. The night I told Linda, we were in bed. She was scrolling through Pinterest. I had the documents on my phone. A letter, a schedule. I passed it to her in silence. She read it twice. "What is this?" she asked, her voice brittle. "A timeline," I said. 60 days. They're legal adults. They need to find work, contribute, or move out. After that, I file formal eviction. She looked at me like I'd grown horns. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious," I said. "I've been carrying them while they spit in my face. I'm done." She didn't argue. She cried. But not for me. The next morning, I sat them down. Tyler slouched in the chair. Brianna didn't even take her earbuds out. Linda stood behind me like a shadow. I laid out the rules. Get jobs, contribute rent, or leave in 60 days. If not, I file. No exceptions. No grace period. Brianna laughed. "You can't kick us out," she said. "It's Mom's house too." Tyler added, "You're not even our real dad. You don't get to decide this." I smiled then, cold, tired. "This isn't about being your dad. This is about being your landlord. And I'm not subsidizing your disrespect anymore." Brianna turned to Linda. "You're really gonna let him do this?" And for the first time, Linda didn't fold. "You're not children," she said. "You treat this house like a motel and Jason like a joke. I'm done protecting you." That shook them. They weren't ready for her to choose. They thought she'd always bend. But something in her had finally cracked, too. Still, they didn't take it seriously. They blasted music every night, made TikToks mocking me, called me a control freak. Brianna even posted a video about toxic stepdads and got a few thousand likes. Tyler left passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. "Didn't know landlords cooked dinner." I didn't respond. I just kept the countdown. Caden and Molly started to change. Caden asked to help cook. Molly picked up her books again. The house had pockets of calm, like little bubbles of peace, growing quietly, as if even they knew something poisonous was about to be flushed out. Day 59 came. No jobs, no rent, no apology. So I filed, typed the paperwork, paid the fees, sent the notices, had the documents served by a third party. All legal, all clean. They got angry. You think a judge is gonna side with you? Tyler barked. He will, I said, because I have records, and you're not children anymore. Brianna tried to guilt Linda, said we were abandoning family. Linda said, you abandoned us first. When court day arrived, I wore a navy suit. Tyler wore sweatpants and a hoodie. Brianna came late chewing gum. The judge barely looked at them. 30 days to vacate. Or the sheriff enforces. They tried everything. Called their father, he didn't pick up. Messaged friends, no one offered a place. Posted online, got sympathy but no help. Day 30 came. 2 deputies knocked at 8 a.m. I stayed in the living room drinking coffee. Linda sat on the stairs, silent. Caden and Molly were still asleep. They packed in a hurry. Garbage bags, overstuffed duffels. Tyler yelled at the deputies. Brianna cried. They took selfies on the way out. Tried to spin it into content. But you could see it in their eyes. They were scared. Because for the first time they were truly alone. When the door shut behind them, Linda exhaled like she hadn't breathed in a year. I set my mug down. Did we do the right thing? She asked. I didn't answer. Because right and wrong didn't matter anymore. Only peace. The house was quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like the air right after a thunderstorm. You expect relief. But what you get is stillness. Tense. Hollow. The kind that makes you wonder if it's really over. Tyler and Brianna were gone. The sheriff had given them 30 minutes. They used 25. Clothes stuffed into garbage bags. Cords dangling from backpacks. One of them knocked over the coat rack on the way out. Neither picked it up. No goodbye. No thank you. Not even a glance back. Just the sound of footsteps. The thud of the door. And silence. Linda cried that night. She curled up on the couch, knees pulled to her chest like a child, and sobbed into a throw pillow we'd bought on some vacation I couldn't remember. Her face was red. Raw. She looked like someone who'd been holding their breath for years and had finally exhaled, only to find out what oxygen really tastes like. I didn't comfort her. Not because I didn't care. Because I was tired of doing the emotional labor while everyone else just broke things. The next day, Caden asked if he could sit in Tyler's old room. Not move in. Just sit. I nodded. He was in there for 2 hours. Came out with red eyes but didn't say a word. He helped me fix the back fence that afternoon without being asked. Molly started reading again. I found her on the porch one morning with a book in her lap and a highlighter in hand. Said she was prepping for her SAT. I hadn't heard her talk about college in almost a year. Linda didn't say much. She moved slower, like she was recovering from something physical. Cooked more. Slept less. Started asking about my day again, the way she used to before the house became a war zone. And still, I couldn't shake the weight, because part of me thought I should feel triumphant. I'd reclaimed my home, defended my children, held the line. But another part of me just felt hollow, like I'd burned the rot out of the house. And now all that was left were scars. 2 weeks after the eviction, Linda's sister hosted a Thanksgiving dinner. Said we should come. Said family was important. I hesitated, but Caden and Molly wanted to go. We showed up with pie. Tyler and Brianna were already there. Of course they were. Sitting at the far end of the table like nothing had happened. Tyler wore a new hoodie, cheap, logo peeling. Brianna's hair was darker, her nails chipped. They looked thinner, not starving, but dimmed. They saw us and stiffened. Linda's sister tried to smile, ushered us to our seats like this wasn't a live grenade of a reunion. The food was dry. The air was worse. I could feel Tyler's stare burning through me like a cigarette pressed to the back of my neck. Halfway through the meal, he spoke. Still kicking people out, step dude? He said it with that familiar sneer, that weaponized smirk. I didn't look up, just reached into my coat pocket and slid a folder onto the table. Manila. Thick. Since you brought it up, I said. He blinked. Everyone stared. Brianna's fork froze midair. What the hell is that? Proof, I said. Receipts. Screenshots. Photos of the house after you left. The broken lamp. The hole in the drywall. The bank statements showing 4 years of me paying for your lives while you mocked me behind my back. Silence. I brought it, I said, because I figured we'd see each other again, and I didn't want there to be any confusion. Tyler didn't speak. Brianna looked away. Linda's sister tried to change the subject, but it was too late. The room had already soured. After that night, we didn't hear from them for a long time. A full year passed. Caden made honor roll. Molly got into early prep courses. Linda started therapy. Said she needed to unpack the patterns she'd normalized. I didn't press. I was focused on rebuilding. Not them. Not anymore. But word gets around. Small circles. Family friends. Social media breadcrumbs. Tyler was working nights at a warehouse 2 towns over. Lifting boxes minimum wage. Still didn't have a license. Still blamed everyone else. Brianna had enrolled in community college. Posted motivational quotes and aesthetic coffee photos. No more influencer dreams. No more dance challenges. Just coursework and quiet. They didn't reach out. Didn't send messages. Didn't ask for help. And you know what? I didn't need them to. Because the truth was, I hadn't destroyed them. I'd removed them. Like tumors. They had infected everything. My marriage. My kids. My sanity. And no one had wanted to acknowledge it. Until I carved them out. Even then, I didn't celebrate. Didn't gloat. Just breathed cleaner air and kept the house quiet. Caden and Molly thrived in that quiet. So did I. One night, Linda asked me if I hated her. We were sitting on the porch. Wind light. Sky pale. No, I said. But I can't forget what you allowed. She nodded. Said nothing. We sat in the silence, letting it say the rest. I still carry it, you know? All of it. Not as anger, as evidence. That love without respect is just labor. That tolerance can be its own kind of betrayal. That a man can give everything, money, time, loyalty, and still be branded a stranger by the people he feeds. So I ask you now, was I wrong? To draw the line? To cut off the people who used me? To leave them outside the house they thought they owned just because they shared blood with someone I loved? Would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I did? Stepped back, let them fall, and rebuilt in peace. After they left, the house didn't cheer. It exhaled. Walls stopped echoing with slammed doors. Plates stayed unbroken. The thermostat didn't shift wildly from one angry hand to another. Everything leveled. Not happy, not bright, but stable, like a broken bone finally set. That first week without Tyler and Brianna felt surreal. Molly laughed again. Not just chuckled, laughed. Loud, wheezing laughter that made me forget how long it had been since I'd heard it. Caden offered to mow the lawn before I asked. Linda started making real dinners, her own recipes, not just heat and eat trays. She stopped reaching for the wine at 4 p.m. and started asking me how my day was again. The kind of small, familiar rituals that meant she saw me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a wallet with shoes. But healing isn't pretty. It's awkward. It limps. It stares at old wounds and asks, how did I let it get this bad? I watched my kids detox from the influence of Tyler and Brianna like someone weaning off a drug. Their sarcasm faded. Their snide tone softened. Molly started turning in homework early. Caden made a chore chart for himself. I didn't ask him to. They had needed structure. All along. But what they got was chaos disguised as tolerance. Entitlement wrapped in excuses. And I had allowed it, hadn't I? By keeping the peace. By holding my tongue. Still shames me. Linda said she was sorry. Quietly. Often. She didn't say it to fix anything. She said it like someone finally realizing the weight of what they'd carried. And what they let others carry for them. I should have done more, she whispered one night. I knew they were cruel. I just didn't know how to choose. I didn't respond, because the truth is she did choose. Every silence was a choice. Every time she let them mock me without consequence, she chose. Every time she said, they've been through a lot, instead of, you can't speak to him like that, she chose. And I remembered everyone. Thanksgiving the year after the eviction, we ran into them again. Linda's sister hosted. Again. Said things were different now. That maybe it was time. I didn't want to go. But Caden and Molly did. We arrived late. On purpose. Sat at the far end of the table. I brought pies again, store-bought this time. No effort. Just obligation. Tyler and Brianna were already there. Older. Thinner. Quiet. They didn't look at us when we walked in. Didn't acknowledge us. But they didn't sneer either. Halfway through the meal, Tyler spoke. Voice flat. Guarded. You didn't have to do it like that, he said. I didn't look up from my plate. Do what? You know what? Brianna nodded. Arms folded. We get it now. You were angry, but you could have just talked to us. I set my fork down. No, I said. I did talk. For years. I asked for respect. I set boundaries. I provided everything. And you both treated me like a vending machine with no voice. Tyler shifted in his seat. We were kids. No, I said. You were adults the day you decided I wasn't family. The day you said I was just the guy who sleeps with mom. The day you looked at the man who paid for your gas, your clothes, your goddamn dentist bills, and laughed in his face. Brianna's voice cracked. We didn't mean it like that. I met her eyes. You meant it exactly like that. No one spoke after that. We finished the meal in silence. On the drive home, Linda didn't say much. Just stared out the window, eyes full of storms that would never land. Weeks passed. Tyler got a job at a repair shop. Night shifts. Long hours. No college. No fallbacks. Brianna stayed in school. Changed majors twice. Still lived in a shared apartment with 3 girls and no privacy. They were surviving, not thriving. And I didn't interfere, because it wasn't my place anymore. They'd made that clear, and I had honored it. But sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if they ever understood what it really cost. Not the money, the years, the patience, the energy, the unseen work of showing up for someone who only sees you as a stepping stone. I had given them everything except blood, and that made me disposable, until I removed myself, until I taught them the one lesson they hadn't learned, that love without respect becomes slavery. Linda tried to bring them up less and less, said she wanted to focus on us. But us didn't exist in a vacuum. It was built on the ruins of what came before. And I hadn't forgotten that when the line had to be drawn, I was the only one willing to draw it. She asked if we'd ever all be a family again. I said nothing, because a real family isn't just people who eat under the same roof. It's who defends you when no one else will. It's who stands up for you when their blood turns sour. It's who says, enough, when the abuse becomes ambient. And no one had said enough until I did. A year later, Brianna emailed me. Not a call. Not a visit. An email. No subject line. Just 3 words. I understand now. I didn't reply, because some things don't need answers. Some lessons are best left hanging in the quiet, like a final bell rung after a long, brutal match. Caden's applying to colleges now. He asks for advice. Actually asks. Molly wants to be a writer. Keeps a journal. Asks me to read her work. They see me, not as a placeholder, as a father. And that's the part that breaks me sometimes. That it took removal to be respected. That I had to become absent to be seen. So here I am, still in this house. Still making coffee in the morning. Still fixing leaks. Still locking the door at night, not out of fear, but out of habit. But I've changed. I don't tolerate things that rot me anymore. Not in silence. Not for peace. Not because someone shares a bed with me and says we're in this together while letting their kids set me on fire. I've drawn the line, and I'll never cross it again. So now I ask you, would you have stayed? Would you have kept feeding people who mocked you? Would you have swallowed years of silence, just to avoid a fight? Or would you have done what I did? Cut the cord, reclaimed your name, and let the chips fall exactly where they deserve to? Because at the end of the day, they were right. I wasn't their real dad. I was the man who saved their lives while they burned the house down. And for that, I owe them nothing. Not love, not grace, not a second chance. Just the quiet truth that the man they used to call the guy who sleeps with mom is now something else entirely. He's Mr. Thompson again, and that's how it should have been all along.